Hey guys, welcome to the breakdown of my challenge track, A Warm Hug Goodbye. For this challenge, we were tasked with flipping this sample. Okay, there's a lot going on in that sample. Got a couple of different instruments, some vocals. You can also kind of hear a side chain in the background. So the first thing I did was try to make some additional raw materials that I could use to build out some other elements, such as, drums, percussion, bass, pads, and just ear candy, sound design stuff. So first thing I did was match it to the project tempo and raised it up an octave, which gave me this. Okay, I ran that through Infiltrator and a beat repeat, and that gave me this set of sounds. Okay, from there I ran it through some more effects and got this. All right, and again, ran it through some more, which gave me some more percussive sounds. And then I did that one more time, giving me this. So at this point, it doesn't sound anything at all like the original sample, but this does give me a lot of kind of noises and sounds to work with when it comes to making percussion. So let's go over to the drums and take a look at what I did. Okay, so this is the drums that were included in the actual submission. So the kick texture is part of the sample, or at least one of the sound design clips that I created. Ran it through some effects, some EQ for shaping, transient control, some saturation. It produced a pretty okay sounding kick, but it's a little bit weak, and so I decided to just use it as a texture layer, and then added a 909 style kick from this stock plugin. And so together they gave us this sound, which was, good enough, I guess. But this does kind of feel like a cop-out, so I did go ahead and go back and bounced out the original kick drum that I had made. So this sound, which is just here. And then I loaded that up into a sampler. And then I added a multi-segment envelope generator, which in this case is just called segments. And I assigned that to modulate the pitch. And that gave it a bit more of an attack. If we listen to that. There's also a transient shaper and a clipper. And then I removed the stereo width. Now it sounds like this. The original sample. I think this sounds a lot better. I also think it actually fits the track better, so I'm going to leave it like this for now. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. So let's move on to the hi-hats. With this, I'm using two different layers. So we've got this sample which originally sounded like this. And then I just filtered out the lows. And then I layered that with another sample. This one also has the lows filtered out. Turn off the rest of the effects. It's just a good, you know, kind of noisy sample. So I added a vocoder, which adds a little bit of noise to the sound, as well as a transient shaper and another clipper. Okay, and then together they sound like this. Looks like on the group channel, I'm also using another transient shaper and a bit of extra reverb. And there's a time shift just because the timing was a little bit off and it didn't quite sound right, so I just kind of shifted it back in place. Okay, and then for the clap sound, this one I kept the sample pretty much intact, which you can hear the original sound like this. Already kind of resembles the clap, so just added some EQ to remove the highs and lows and boost the frequency around 1000 hertz. And then I added a little bit of convolution reverb to the sides, and that gave us the final sound. For the perk track, I'm using an auto pan and cutting out the highs and lows. And in this case, I'm using a transient shaper to reduce the attack because it did sound a little bit harsh. So that one sounds like this. Just like the kind of background texture that provided. And then the ear candy tracks are more kind of incidental. They're not really part of the groove. These are for things like transitions or, you know, accents, things like that. And these are also chopped up from those different sound design clips. Just a lot of stuff like that. Different kind of percussion-y texture. Yeah, that's those. Ear Candy 2 is essentially the same purpose as Ear Candy. It just has a delay on top of the reverb. One thing I like to do sometimes is just, you know, take one of the clips and drag it over and see if I like it better with the different set of effects. Now it has a lot more kind of sustain to it versus that. I think I'm mainly just using that at the end. But anyway, let's get to the music part. So I have a group set up for the side chaining where I have the bass and the sample. The sample is just chopping out a couple of different chords from the original sample. They're pitched down an octave, and I'm using kind of the different warp modes to get a different sound out of it. I think it gives a kind of a lo-fi quality. And then I've cut out the lows and the highs, and that gave me this. And that kind of repeats throughout the track. I use a couple of different sections of the clip. And that clicking sound is coming from the side chains, so just ignore it. For the bass and the other kind of musical instruments, I'm using a similar technique for all of them. I loaded up one of the samples into a sampler, and I'm using the cycles mode, which treats it kind of like a wavetable. So it gives you a really stable sound, which makes it ideal for creating instruments. In this case, I'm also using a bandpass filter that is key tracked with the resonance turned up, so that's just kind of boosting that fundamental even more. And that gives us this sound. See, there's also a pitch envelope here that is kind of adding some of that attack at the beginning. Next, for the main melody, this is kind of a similar setup, just using a different clip in the sampler. And with this one, I'm also doing a bit of randomization of the position of the playhead on the sample. And so every time you play a note, it's going to pick a different slice, and that kind of gives it more life, you know, because every time the note plays, it's a little bit different. And that sounds like this. Of course, there's, you know, some reverb and an infiltrator here, which the infiltrator is there to provide some transition effects when I do the build-up, but just using a preset for that one. But here's the melody sound. Okay, counter melody is kind of the same situation, just a different clip again. And I think for this one, I played it in a higher register to kind of differentiate it. And it also has a chorus and a delay that's been added. And that one sounds like this. Okay, and then we have a pad sound. Again, really similar. With this one, I'm also using the Love plugin, which is kind of a granular effect that can really, you know, wash things out. And so that sounds like this. All right, yeah, so that's kind of a walkthrough of it's primarily the sound design. There's nothing particularly crazy happening with the music itself. I tried to keep it pretty basic and laid back sounding, kind of chill, you know. It's not my usual kind of music, but it was fun for this challenge. So, you know, thank you for the challenge, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to let me know.